This video is how to create a class inside of CSS and HTML. A class can be used to define certain information. In this case, we're going to use it to define and tell how to put this image on the screen. We don't just want it on the left. I don't want it on the center. I mean, on the right. I want it in the center. So inside of the index.html file, where we made our picture, our image source, right after the quotations is where we're going to write class equals center. A class is like a classification, and class equals quotation marks center. But we need to tell our web page here to have inside of our CSS file something called center, and a class is denoted with a period dot center and then a curly bracer and enter. Now this says that there is this word called center and we're calling it a class. And you'll notice it has this little exclamation point. When we do things in CSS, if we don't have anything inside, there's no rule, it says rule is empty, we need to make sure we put some information. Well, to save time, I went ahead and just pasted in what you need to type. You can adjust this a little bit as you go, and you'll see what this does. So display, :block, margin dash left, and so on. Go ahead and pause the video and copy those things down. Okay, hopefully you have those in. Make sure your spelling is correct, your grammar, which we call syntax. Make sure your syntax is correct in coding. Make sure you have class equals quotation center at the end of your image source line. And over here in your browser, make sure everything is saved, save, and refresh. Now it took that image and it blew it up and put it into the center. Now it looks pretty good, but it also made the image a little blurry because it's small, the one that I downloaded. So inside of the CSS for our center class, we basically said that any image that we choose to center, we want it to be a 50% width. Well, I'm going to change that to 30. Save it, refresh. Now that looks a little bit better. The spacing looks better. It's a clearer image. That way we're not magnifying it so much. It blurs it out. So feel free to play around a little bit with that. That's how to align your image with a center class. You can change it a little, and I think it's important to show you that. So let's say we wanted our class to say right. This image we want to follow our style sheet that deals with a class called right. So I'm going to change center to right. Okay. And refresh. Now nothing happens. That's because we haven't told it anything different with our margins left and right. So we are going to say 0, and that turns off the margin left to 0. So margin right is an auto. Let's undo those steps, get it back to auto, put in 0 here, and refresh. And now it's moved all the way to the side. There is no margin pulling it over. There are lots of different ways to do this, and this is just one example, and that example is using class. Now, I think for the beginning of the web page, it's good for it to be in the center. So I'm going to change my class back to center, and every time I make that change, I hit Control-S and I save it. That way I quickly get my code saved, and I can go back to my browser, and there it is. We have added a class to our image system, so anything that we give the class called center, it will put it on the left, or put it on the center of the page with this size. Okay.